Hey, what's up? Hello everyone. Welcome into Fantasy Filmball, the show where we turn movies into sports and sports into something we don't talk about here. My name is Matt.
My name is Dyl, and we are continuing with our predictions for the 2024 Oscars. You may be like, this is so early. It is, but that's what makes this so fun. Matt, what categories do we have today?
Today we're going to be talking about the crafts categories. We've broken up all the categories into different kind of fields. So last week we did the text. This week we're doing the crafts, which is costume design, production design, makeup and hair, score, and song. 5 categories today, and we're going to be alternating between the two of us. Make sure you drop your own predictions in those comments. Let us know what you think. Let us know what you think we got wrong. We want to hear from you. But let's get right into the first predictions today. Dyl, take us away with costume design.
So everyone out there, rejoice, rejoice. I know Matt and I have both been very low on Barbie's Oscar chances, but guess what? Costumes, this is where I feel best about it. I have it at number 1. The trailer just came out and it got us a look at all the costumes. They look great, they look bright, they look vibrant. This is a category where you can have a solo winner, you can have a solo nominee. So even if Barbie isn't a big picture player, above the line type player, costumes feels very safe for a nomination, at least at this point to me. Feels like a feel-good frontrunner.
Actually, with Barbie, I'm starting to soften a little bit because I was expecting more backlash on some of the trailers. I was expecting to go into the comment sections and see a bunch of, angry incels being like, who asked for this movie? I don't see that. Maybe people are going to get off their high horse and go see this movie, so I don't know. I'm still not going to put it in picture. I think the odds are still stacked against it, but you're right. Costumes feels so safe. Those costumes look stellar. Oh my god, this trailer looked good.
Yeah, I really like the trailer as well. And I guess for people who may be new here, I'm not on the same wavelength as Matt for the reason why Barbie won't perform well. I'm more with Warner Brothers has too much. This is option number 3. I don't see them having 3 Best Picture nominees. But for costumes, the costume designer is Jacqueline Duran. She has, let me count here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 nominations and 2 wins under her belt. And I mean, like I've said before, costume design is a category where you don't need the picture love. You can get in here. We saw Cruella do this a few years ago. We saw Eyes of Tammy Faye get nominated here. We saw House of Gucci get nominated while the movie was panned. So to me, feels very safe here. After that, we do have some Best Picture nominees getting represented. Color Purple, West Side Story got in. The first one got nominated. There's no reason for this one not to get in. And then we have Dune Part 2. So we have all 3 Warner Brothers movies as my top 3 in costume design.
Continue, though, because I think you got another one right afterwards.
I do. I have Wonka, and at number 4, the costume designer is Lindy Hemming. She won all the way back in 1999. It is her only nomination, which, Wonka could be a solo costume design nominee, and I know I said that for Barbie. I have Barbie getting, I think, at the moment, 3 or 4 tech nominations, so it wouldn't be a solo, but it would be a solo winner. But for Wonka, it's one I really don't know what to do with at the moment, because, like I mentioned before, Warner Brothers has so much on their plate right now, but they're all so good. And it's or maybe not good, we don't know that yet, but they all look like they should be good, and they all look like they should be across the board, or at least multiple nomination movies. And can they have 4 strong, good campaigns in one season? Who really knows?
All for the same categories, too. That's the crazy thing, is Barbie, Dune, Color Purple, Wonka are all vying for the Tech Awards. All of them. What the hell? This doesn't happen. It's crazy.
It is. And, I feel like you and I are both on the same page. One of these movies should get pushed. We know it's not Barbie, and we know it's probably not Color Purple. So is it Dune not being done in time? Is it Wonka getting pushed just because it's too much?
I kind of think Dune's not going to be done on time. I kind of have a little feeling Dune is not going to be finished for October. They've already said it's not going to be finished for September. It's not coming to Venice. It's not coming to TIFF. Is it going to be finished 1 month later? I don't know. I don't know.
I would tend to agree, and on a personal note, I would also like to see Dune push. I don't want to see them rush this in terms of a personal enjoyment type of thing. And at least looking at some tech awards like we had last episode, Dune has a huge competitor. It goes to next year. Maybe it has Avatar 3, but we don't know if Avatar 3 is making that date. So Dune may look a lot better next year.
Avatar 3 will get pushed. Avatar 3 is going to get pushed. It's just going to happen. Dune Part 2 would still win VFX next year unless by some goddamn miracle the Seed Bearer comes out, which is Avatar 3. Yeah, no, I don't expect Dune to make it. If we don't see a trailer by mid-June, before Barbie, then Dune's not coming.
Mm-hmm. I would
That's
have
just
to
how
agree.
I feel.
I would have to agree. But that brings us to our number 5 slot here, and this is weird. For me, this category gets weird. I run out of Warner Brothers movies because I'm not putting Aquaman in. And I'm leaning towards Napoleon. It's a war movie. Yes, they usually miss. But I don't really know what else feels good in this spot. Because it is a war movie, but it's also going to have a lot of older French costumes as well for the time period. Chevalier is a movie that looks good on paper, but the costume designer has never been nominated. It's coming out so early. Will it be remembered in the conversation? I know Cruella did that, but Cruella was a sweeper. This won't be a sleeper. Little Mermaid is there, but probably not. Rustin, it's a new costume designer. It's not the person who did Ma Rainey, so maybe. Priscilla has Elvis costumes, and then that leaves me with Poor Things, which I feel like is the probably next in line, but I also don't want to over-nominate this. It's a newer individual doing the costume designing. They did Lady Macbeth, which did get a BAFTA nomination, but did not get an Oscar nomination. So it will be another type of period piece, kind of like Napoleon, but also not to the grand scale of something like a Napoleon would be.
I know you're much more confident on Napoleon than I am. I'm not feeling strong about that film. Ridley Scott is so uneven. He's so all over the place. He has been through his entire career. And keep in mind, Ridley Scott, he's been working since the 70s. He's only ever had 2 Best Picture nominees, Gladiator and The Martian. He doesn't typically have to perform well with the Oscars. And Napoleon has just given me all the bad vibes. Even from photos that we saw, the color grade is off, man. I don't know. So if Napoleon is big, it can get in costumes. But I don't know.
Well,
I don't know.
That's what I mean here. I don't really feel good about anything past number 3. Barbie, Color Purple, Dune. Yeah, Wonka makes the most sense, so that's why it's at my 4. And then at that point, those other 6 movies I just listed, none of them none of them sound good to me. So yeah. Napoleon makes the most sense because of the period pieces, but it's also a war movie. 1917, All Quiet on the Western Front, both missed. So I guess to you, what would you put in that 5 slot, assuming that we had the same top 4?
Well, I would say of your list, Poor Things would be the most likely for me. Yes, it's a newer individual, but it's a Victorian set gothic tale. And it's Yorgos Lanthimos, who I assume he knows what he's doing in hiring these different people for this film. He knows what he's trying to do. But if not Poor Things, I think I would suggest Killers of the Flower Moon. Right? I mean, The Irishman got a nomination for costume design, even though why the fuck did that get a nomination for costume design? It was just suits. Everyone's wearing a suit. What, you go to Brooks Brothers and you walk out with a fucking Oscar nomination? What the fuck? But Killers of the Flower Moon is not that. Killers of the Flower Moon is so much more than a bunch of guys in suits and Al Pacino wearing a Hawaiian shirt in one scene. It's more than that. It is a film that is set in the 1920s, it's set in Prohibition era, and not only does it focus on the FBI agents, it also has a lot of indigenous people who are wearing a lot of interesting costumes. From the script I read, that there's a huge focus on traditional indigenous dress and the costumes there. They could do something really interesting with that, and I think it can stand out enough. The interplay between these Prohibition-era FBI agents and the Osage tribe in Oklahoma is going to be really interesting. So I would recommend that one. Otherwise, I think you're also missing out on putting Asteroid City on your list. Yes, I know that we're not confident Wes Anderson can make an Oscar movie, but he should at least be in the top 10. French Dispatch would have ended in the top 10 for costumes and production design, did not get nominated for either, but it was probably one of the next in line that year. And this one probably will be too. I mean, we've seen the trailer. We know the costumes look really good. Does it mean it's getting nominated? No. Also, I'd say look out for May December. May December is from Todd Haynes. He always does some interesting stuff with the clothes in his movies. The costumes are always very good. This is a contemporary story, though, so who knows? Also, if Oppenheimer's a thing, maybe look out for that.
Fair enough. I like the shot for Killers of the Flower Moon. Probably that should be my Apple movie at number 5, but I will admit my bias for Napoleon, something that I'm very interested in, so maybe I am over-predicting it. But I feel like the whole angle of where they could put older French outfits could get there, but Killers makes more sense. Speaking of all that, though, we have another category where all the Warner Brothers stuff is competing for this nomination, Best Production Design. Matt, kind of where your standings looking at this moment.
Dude, now that you mentioned that these are all Warner Brothers movies, you've got me fucked up. I don't know what I'm... There's no way! There's no goddamn way that Warner Brothers gets 4 movies in, and 3 of them are releasing within 2 months of each other. Like, how the hell does Wonka come out on December 15th and The Color Purple comes out on December 25th? How the hell does that happen?
Warner Brothers are going to Warner Brothers. They've had a very interesting, I would say, start of pandemic to now of how they're releasing movies and doing stuff. And I mean, it seems to possibly be working out with them for money-wise, not for the creators' happiness. But we'll see what happens this year.
Yeah, I do have a feeling something's going to get pushed or something's going to get left behind. But if not, let's just pretend that everything is on equal footing from Warner Brothers, and let's just go with hypotheticals not based around studios, but based around the films themselves. We'll talk studios when we get to Best Picture. We're just going to talk about the films right now. So for Best Production Design, I'm going to switch things up from what I've been saying in all of these videos, because you'll probably see me over and over saying Dune Part 2 isn't going to get all the wins that it did last time. There's no way Dune is going to get this nomination and win that it got last. It's not going to get an editing win again. It's not going to get, spoilers for later, it's not winning score again. But I do think it's winning production design again. I keep saying the same thing, which is, yes, of course, Dune is not going to win every award that it won in 2021. But I do have it winning this one, and the question is, why? And the answer is a question. What's going to be different? Is there going to be enough new that the Academy has reason to vote for it again? Right? We see this with the Lord of the Rings trilogy, right? In the Lord of the Rings, the first one did all of these things. It got all of the awards. The second one came out, and there were some things that were different, but for the most part, the music was mostly the same, which it didn't get nominated for. Cinematography looked the same, which it didn't get nominated for. But there's a few things that changed, and those are the things that it still carried through and either won for or got nominated for again. And same with The Return of the King. What changed? I mean, everything changed in Return of the King because it was bigger, it brought in these new locations, these new sets, it did things differently, and that's why it won again. And my understanding of the second part of Dune is that it's going to have a lot of new settings, a lot of new focus on planets that are not Arrakis. We're not just going to be stuck on Dune again. It's not going to just be the desert. We're going to see more of the Harkonnens planet. We're going to see more of the galaxy. We're going to see more of the ships. That's going to offer a lot of opportunity for very new production design. Plus, there's massive battle scenes, right? And in this category, I do think that there's enough different. There's not going to be enough different in score or cinematography, maybe even editing, sound, but production design will be new, and it will be enough to win another Oscar, in my eyes. In my second place slot, I've got The Color Purple. Surprise, Warner Brothers. Let's keep going with the Warner Brothers. Color Purple is my second place. Reasons being, the production designer of this film did The Shape of Water. We know the cinematography is going to be great. It's Dan Laustin doing it. And these categories often correlate quite a bit. We usually see the winner of cinematography get a production design nomination or win. And since I have Color Purple winning cinematography, I have to have it in here. Plus, it's a period piece. There's going to be some fantastic creative visuals throughout, both exteriors and interiors. Outside, they're going to use a lot of flowers. That's a central part of the color purple, is these purple flowers that exist all over the place. It's going to be visually stunning. It's going to be very interesting. And the interiors are also going to leave a lot of room for interesting ideas. And that's really the reason there. I could even see this winning if Dune Part 2 does not. In third place, Barbie. Come on. We saw the trailer. That looks awesome. And even if the movie isn't a big thing in picture, it's in here. The production design is crazy. The colors, how vibrant and bright everything is. It's eye-popping. Everything looks plastic. It looks like the entire world has become like a playset in a child's room. It's so... Oh my god, it looks great. And so what I will say, and why it's in number 3, not in number 1, we know Barbie World looks great, but we also know that the entire movie is not set in Barbie World. The question is, does the rest of the film look as good as what we've seen from Barbie World?
Yeah, and I think another great point to backpack off of Barbie here is that we've seen in the past few years, there may be movies that look very good on paper, like a Babylon to win production design, but if you're not in Best Picture, you usually can't win this. And if we have Barbie both missing picture, it does not look like this may come along with it.
Absolutely. And the next one that I've got, oh god, man, I'm going to have to bend on some of these Warner Brothers films, but I've got Wonka in 4th place. Now, we haven't seen much from this, but it's another period piece. And what I'm going to say is trust in Paul King. The Paddington movies should have been in production design, and if they were given an Oscar push, they could have been in production design. Those are fantastically designed movies, and Wonka is going to be magical. The production design is going to be a part of that. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I might be mistaken here, and if I am mistaken, Dylan, cut this out. But if I'm not mistaken, Tim Burton's Wonka movie, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, did get a production design nomination. Plus, the production designer of Wonka is Nathan Crowley, who has 6 nominations, mostly for Christopher Nolan movies. He's not doing Oppenheimer, weirdly enough, but he has 6 nominations, usually Christopher Nolan, and he's revered in the industry, and I think that that's enough to get in here. I mean, we saw Tenet got a nomination for Nathan Crowley, even when the film was snubbed basically everywhere else. So maybe Nathan Crowley gets this film in on his own merits, but also it's going to be magical looking.
Well, you'll be sad to hear that the Tim Burton Charlie and the Chocolate Factory did get an Oscar nominee, but it was not for production design. It was for costume design. But at the BAFTAs, it did get costumes, production, visual effects, and makeup and hairstyling.
Okay, good to know. So you don't need to edit that out, but let's say Charlie and the Chocolate Factory doesn't necessarily mean production design, but I have confidence in Paul King. I have confidence in Nathan Crowley. My 5th place prediction here is Killers of the Flower Moon. Scorsese period pieces get in this category. The Irishman, Hugo, not Silence, but Silence didn't get in anywhere. The Aviator, Gangs of New York. The script of Killers of the Flower Moon has a ton of opportunity for interesting production design. It reminds me of Power of the Dog in the interplay between these homestead-style houses with the Great Plains of Oklahoma. It's a very big movie, and even if I'm predicting this to kind of underperform a little bit, this feels like the type of nomination that comes along with it. There's going to be a lot of interesting stuff in the FBI boardrooms, and there's going to be a lot of interesting stuff out in Oklahoma. So that's the whole reason I've got for Killers of the Flower Moon, and that is my top 5.
Yeah, I like that top 5. I think we have 4 of the same 5. This is a category I do have Wonka out in, but I'm pretty sure the one I do have in is your next in line.
Yeah, I'll go through what's outside my top 5, and you guys can criticize me I'll tell you why I've got things out, why I think they might be in. And so I'll start off with Oppenheimer. Nolan's working with a new production designer. He normally works with Nathan Crowley, but as I just mentioned, he's doing Wonka, not Oppenheimer. His new production designer, Ruth DeJong, she did Us, she did Nope, works a lot with Jordan Peele. She also did the new Twin Peaks series for David Lynch. Now, the production design of Oppenheimer looks solid from the trailers, but it's not selling me as something that's 100% lock-worthy. It's a lot of open deserts, a lot of labs, test facilities. I guess in a way it feels like First Man, which did get a nomination for Nathan Crowley, who is doing Wonka, not this. But yeah, I'm not convinced on Oppenheimer, but it could happen. I would just want the film to be a big thing first. And the next one that I've got would be Poor Things. Poor Things I would have higher, but the production designers on Poor Things are not the ones that did The Favorite. They are untested. I think one of them has basically production designed nothing, and the other has done a couple of smaller productions. Like, I think that the biggest film that I saw on their IMDb page was The Man Who Invented Christmas, the movie about Charles Dickens, which, yeah, that's not something that's giving me the most confidence in them. But that said, again, Lanthimos knows what he's doing. He has picked them for a reason, and if he keeps some of the Favorite vibes with this gothic dark comedy, Robbie Ryan is still shooting it, it's going to look great. It could be really strong. It's a period piece set in Victorian England. We're going to have to see what look that entails, but it could be very strong. After that, Asteroid City looks stunning. It has the same production designer that did West Side Story, The French Dispatch. French Dispatch did get snubbed, but it was probably next in line for the nomination because it was sweeping critics groups, getting all of the nominations for critics groups. But that said, Asteroid City does look a lot more sparse in design. There's less going on. It's a tiny town in the desert with only a few buildings. If the movie gets in a few other places, if it gets the Critics' Choice nomination, if it gets the Art Directors Guild, maybe this will come along, but I think it would also need a few other nominations at the Oscars. And I don't know what else Asteroid City would get at the moment. After that, Beau is Afraid. Every review for this movie is polarizing, but every review, good or bad, mentions how stunning the production design is. We know that people keep saying this movie goes off on the production design. Take that for what you will, but it's possible that there's growing passion for this that allows it to get a nomination, even if the movie is too freaky and anxiety-inducing elsewhere. Think The Lighthouse getting in for cinematography. That could be Beau is Afraid for production design. I'm not going to bet on it, but we'll have to see how the momentum builds, and if the momentum really is building for Beau is Afraid in production design, then it can happen. And the last thing I'm going to mention here is Napoleon. If Napoleon is good, it could get in. It's going to have big war scenes like All Quiet. It's going to have cool interiors with what they do with Versailles or any other French palaces that they go into. It could look great. It probably will look great. Ridley Scott does a great job. All that matters is, does he fuck up the rest of the movie?
Yeah, that's a good point. And Napoleon's something that I have a little bit high. I don't have it in my top 5, but it's in that conversation as well. Asteroid City, I'm really not sold on this doing anything, and I think that's one of the reasons why I don't have it in my lineup for costumes, as well as not having it here for production design. If it would sweep, just like a French Dispatch did, does it still mean it misses? Probably, maybe. I don't know, but there's one movie that's not in your top 10. I feel kind of good for no real reason. But we were doing an episode, I would say about 3 months ago, we were talking about, Top Gun Maverick came out of nowhere. It was this big movie, big success, and it got all the way to the Oscars. And I was like, there's one movie this year that kind of sounds similar that could pull that. And that is Indiana Jones, The Dial of Destiny. Yes, Maverick's additional tech with cinematography, where it got snubbed. But if Indiana Jones is the best picture player, I feel like production design is this big tech or craft category here that would come along with it. And do I have it in my 5 at the moment? No, but it is my number 6, where it is having its con premiere here soon. So could go well, could hear positive stuff, and maybe it gets in over one of those extra Warner Brother movies, whether it is Wonka, whether it is Barbie, or whether it is something completely random. So that was going to move us over to best makeup and hairstyling. Sometimes they forget about this, and that's what makes this category so tricky, is because you see a lot of movies that have really cool hair, but does that matter at the end of the day? Usually not. However, I'm not really sure what to do with this category at the moment. We don't have a runaway Elvis type movie, which didn't even win last year, or the Whale type movie that's like, yes, this, 100%. I don't think we have that this year. Number 1, for the moment, is not going to make sense, but kind of makes sense to me. Matt has mentioned a few times, Dune not having the same performance that the first one had. It's going to underperform, maybe miss some nominations. maybe not win some of the stuff the first one did. Well, the first one didn't win makeup and hairstyling, but if they are doing new things, introducing new people, more focusing on the villains that have the more of the makeup work, maybe this is a new win for Dune Part 2 that Dune Part 1 did not have. So it is kind of a placeholder for me at the moment. I feel pretty good for a nomination, but for a win, I'm not entirely for sure. What are your thoughts on that kind of out there type prediction?
Well, you know what? We didn't get to see a whole lot of Baron Harkonnen in the first one after he got poisoned by Duke Leto. And I think we're going to see a lot more of that because the poison that he gets hit with is going to make his skin fester and rot. And we're going to see so much more of Stellan Skarsgård's enormous rotting flesh in this one. I think what I said earlier and what you said right now about what is this Dune going to do different than the first one did, you're right. The makeup is going to be different. Hopefully we see more of the Baron. I'm sure we'll see more of the Harkonnens. We're also going to see the Emperor. We're going to get Florence Pugh. We're going to get more Zendaya. We're going to get some Austin Butler. I could be sold on this winning. I could totally be sold on it because we are going to see a lot more makeup because Timothée Chalamet and Oscar Isaac in the first one did not get a lot of it. That's not going to be the case for Dune Part 2.
So that brings me to number 2 and 3, which are Warner Brothers movies, naturally. Number 2, though, is Barbie. Let's go Barbie. But this, to me, seems more like I keep making this Babylon comparison, but this is another one here. It's top 2, top 3 in a lot of categories, but is it going to win all those categories? No, because at least at the moment, it's not a Best Picture movie for me. So it's one where maybe it makes more sense on paper than Dune to win this category, but I feel more confident with Barbie winning elsewhere than just having its win. In this category, Color Purple's number 3. First one got in. This one probably will as well, unless they do something completely wrong or this movie goes off the rails, but feels pretty safe. But number 4, I know will have a reaction out of you, but I have Maestro, and this is the only nomination I have Maestro in across the whole ceremony. Think House of Gucci. That applies here.
Same. Maestro only gets makeup. It will get makeup. It's so makeup. That's the type of movie it is. I do want to say for Barbie, I would be worried about a makeup and hair nomination because seeing the trailer, there's not a whole lot of makeup, right?
That's
they
true.
don't the Oscars don't go for the glamour makeup. This is why when we were talking makeup this year, I was saying blonde won't get in. It's because they don't care for the glamour stuff. They don't care when makeup makes people look good. They want makeup to make people look like shit or look different. And yes, hair would be the argument for Barbie because the hair styling looks great, but we know how this category operates. They don't give a shit about hair. They just don't. They really don't. Because every year there's hairstyling that should win, and every year they just go for the obvious makeup. And that's why the only makeup that feels like makeup in Barbie is Kate McKinnon having crayon drawn on her face. Everything else doesn't feel like that to me. Otherwise, though, I'm with you on Color Purple. I'm with you on Maestro. Barbie's probably like my number 6 or number 7. I think it's going to be stuck there all year long in makeup and hair. But ultimately, the glamour stuff doesn't do it for them.
That brings us to number 5. Ma Rainey won this award, so why can't Rustin get nominated? Will it win? No. But for a nomination, I could see it. And this is another category where I'm like, I feel solid with a few, but for the rest, I'm not sure. Rustin's right now my placeholder for number 5. I have Napoleon and Killers of the Flower Moon, the 2 Apple movies at 6 and 7, making Joaquin Phoenix look like Napoleon, making Killers. All the stuff they're doing there. Then you have Wonka. I don't think it's big enough. Little Mermaid, probably not. And then Priscilla's down there. I don't really believe in this movie for the Oscars, but it does have Elvis makeup. It does have Priscilla makeup and hairstyling. So maybe, but at the same time, they just nominated the last year and didn't even give it the win. So they're going to nominate it again? Probably not. But there's one I know I left off my list here that you will mention that in retrospect probably should be above that bottom 3 I have.
For sure. I'll make an argument against Rustin being your number 5 at this point. And I guess that's, we can't just go off of, this director just did Ma Rainey, so Rustin's going to have similar makeup. Ma Rainey, they had Viola Davis suited up in that. Like, she looked unrecognizable in that film. With Rustin, it's a biopic where Coleman Domingo is going to be playing a real-life activist, but I don't think that activist is that recognizable. Not someone who is going to... It's not The Eyes of Tammy Faye. It's not Bombshell. It's not Vice. It's not one of those films that takes a real-life big celebrity and transforms an actor into them. People don't know Rustin, or they don't know what Rustin looks like, I should say. And so I don't necessarily see the argument for it being like, wow, they transformed Coleman Domingo into Rustin. So some things I'd suggest. The first one I'd suggest would be Bob Marley's biopic, which I know you have pretty strongly in Best Actor. I'm not convinced it's coming out, but if it does, that's the type of thing that I think should be your Rustin spot. Because the argument there is, oh my god, they took Kingsley Ben-Adir and they transformed him into Bob Marley. Look at the hair, look at the makeup. They made him Bob Marley. And that's always an argument for one of these films. And the only one you have in your top 5 right now that feels like that kind of transformative makeup job is Maestro. And I, again, don't see Leonard Bernstein being the thing that people go, oh my god, they gave Bradley Cooper a nose. That's going to be something people are pissed off about, not amazed by. Next thing I'd recommend would be Poor Things, which has Frankenstein vibes. They operate on Emma Stone's brain. There's going to be scars. There's going to be interesting gothic makeup, perhaps rotting, perhaps monster-esque design to this. Again, it's a retelling of Frankenstein in a way, so that could be a really interesting makeup opportunity for Emma Stone. After that, Beau is Afraid is possible, because Joaquin Phoenix plays a bunch of different ages of this character. He's aged up, he's aged down. Does he play the child in the movie? Because it kind of looks like a weird deep-faked version, and I could see an argument later on in the year where people look back at Beau is Afraid and they go, wow, they used digital makeup in a really interesting way, where not only were they using prosthetics on Joaquin Phoenix, they also digitally enhanced it with deepfake technology. That could be an interesting way to sell this is a makeup nominee. It's the new wave of makeup. And after that, the last thing I'd recommend would be Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. We don't know what the makeup's going to look like, but probably pretty good.
Yeah, no, those are all great points. Poor Things was the one I was alluding to before that I probably should move up, but I don't have at the moment. You make a good case about Bob Marley's biopic. That also, to me, seems more like a hair work than a makeup work as well, but you make a good point of it's an actor play. Makeup usually comes along with it as well, even if it's not the most showy type of thing. But that brings us to our, most fun categories we have, the music type stuff, because who really knows what's going on with music at this moment?
Not us, but we're going to predict it anyways. So let's start off with Best Original Score, and then we'll do Song, which is the hardest category at this point to predict, because we don't know what songs exist or what movies have songs. But that's for later. For now, let's talk score. In first place, I have How Do You Live, Hayao Miyazaki's swan song, presumably his final film, with a score written by the legendary Joe Hisaishi. This is a hope addiction. I don't seriously believe that this is actually the most likely to win, but I can see a path for it winning. Joe Hisaishi is widely respected. He has never had an Oscar nomination, but he has written almost every film score for Hayao Miyazaki, every single one since Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind. His music defines Studio Ghibli as much as Miyazaki does himself. The simple piano melodies, the melodic, tonally pleasing scores, they're some of the most memorable scores of all time for me. I could hum most of Joe Hisaishi's work on Miyazaki films right now, off the top of my head. He's someone that I think people will look back at their career and think this is someone who deserves recognition. Whether it's one day an honorary Oscar or whether it is a career award this year. Now, the path to a win for Joe Hisaishi and How Do You Live is, for one thing, How Do You Live has to end up possibly being a Best Picture contender. It does not need to be a nominee, but it needs to be top 20. This needs to be getting a push for Best Picture. It needs to be Japan's pick for International Feature. And every single critic group has to be nominating it. It has to be getting Best Picture buzz. And critic groups have to be giving Joe Hisaishi the prize, which I think is actually very likely because people know him, they know his work, and they're going to want to award him. This is going to need the Golden Globe, the Critics' Choice, and every critic group. Serious momentum is needed, but it is possible.
You make a valid argument there. Just everything you're saying there could apply to not the, like, they've never been nominated, but the career win. It could apply to someone else who's in your top 3. But I'll let you talk about number 2 before we get to that person.
Yeah, we'll talk about that a little bit, and I think that's the danger here, is that we saw a career win and a swan song win didn't happen this year with The Fabelmans, so it doesn't necessarily have to happen. I'm just hoping that we see a sweep, because oftentimes in score we do see a season sweep, like Soul, for example. Soul was not a Best Picture nominee, but it managed to get every single score award because it was just that good, and people just wanted to award it that much. Mm-hmm. And I do think that there's a possibility here for How Do You Live. But in second place, I have Killers of the Flower Moon, Scorsese's new movie, which has a score by Robbie Robertson. Robbie Robertson is the lead member of the band, the classic rock outfit that gave us hits like The Wait and gave us one of the best concert movies of all time with The Last Waltz, which is directed by Martin Scorsese. They've been friends and collaborators for a very long time. Now, some people out there have said that they think Scorsese won't use much score in Killers of the Flower Moon because he usually uses pre-existing stuff, to which I say bullshit. 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 This film is set in the 1920s. Scorsese knows when to use score and when not to. And if you look at any of his fucking period pieces, they use a goddamn score. He got a nomination for Hugo in 2011. He didn't. Howard Shore did. Which, funny enough, I'm going to rep Toronto here. Scorsese really likes working with composers from Toronto. Howard Shore, now Robbie Robertson. But yes, Robbie Robertson, he did do The Irishman, which did not get nominated, but that did use a lot of pre-existing music. This is set before there were recordings. 1920s was before there were records. There is going to be a score in this movie. Plus, and this is the biggest thing, Killers of the Flower Moon is a film about Indigenous peoples, and specifically about missing and murdered Indigenous women. Robbie Robertson is an Indigenous person. He is one of the few. Actually, I know that there's a lot of consultants on Killers of the Flower Moon who are Indigenous. But as far as I know, Robbie Robertson may be the only key creative on this film who is Native American. And that is a great narrative to give a nomination for Killers of the Flower Moon, for a film about Indigenous rights, to an Indigenous person. In third place, I have Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. It's John Williams.
There it is.
It's John Williams. He got nominations for the past 3 Star Wars movies. He has nominations for 3 out of 4 of the Indiana Jones movies. This might be his last score. It's a done deal. He's in. He's coming along with this. Get your shit out of here that Indiana Jones isn't happening. It is in score. Guaranteed. Guaranteed.
Yes. Those number 2, number 3 are my number 2 and number 1, just the order flips. So I feel very strongly with how you feel as well.
In fourth place, I have Past Lives, which the score is composed by Christopher Bear and Daniel Rawson. I've heard great things about the music. Christopher Bear and Daniel Rawson formed the indie rock group Grizzly Bear. Grizzly Bear is a neat indie rock band. They got some good stuff. I'm sure they're going to transition well to film scores, and it reminds me a lot of when the guys from Arcade Fire got nominated for Her. And in fifth place, rounding out my top 5, I've got Oppenheimer, music by Ludwig Göransson. Friendship with Hans Zimmer ended. Göransson is now Christopher Nolan's best friend. We know this music is going to be great. Ludwig Göransson is one of the most versatile people out there. He can do a score for Community, and he can do a score for Tenet. Yes, he did get snubbed for Tenet, but he could have been nominated if they campaigned at all. And the thing with this is that being a biopic allows for Ludwig Göransson to go a lot more subtle at times, instead of just being this big wave of sound that he had to do with Tenet. Tenet was an action movie. It needed that. This could be quiet at times, and that's going to be the interesting thing. We know Nolan is going to make this movie loud, but the question is, how is Göransson going to make this movie quiet?
Great point there. I'm really interested to see what Göransson does, because he's one of my favorite composers out there at the moment. As you've mentioned, most of his work is either very loud or very energetic, because you can look at the Black Panther score as well. So I'm really excited to see, as you mentioned, just how quiet and how just more mellow the score is. But I'm sure the bomb sequences will have more of the reminiscence of the over-the-top, energized loudness that we're used to with Ludwig.
Now, let's get into what missed out, what's not in my top 5. First up, Asteroid City, Alexandre Desplat. Now, Desplat is getting snubbed over and over and over. He got snubbed for The Midnight Sky. He got snubbed for The French Dispatch. He got snubbed for Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio. The French Dispatch is a great point of reference here. It's an excellent score, but the Academy just looked right over it. Same with Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio. It's possible that this is going to look like it's top 3 going into Oscar nominations, and it just might get snubbed. Unless the film is crazy strong, which it won't be, this feels like one that everyone's going to think is happening until the last minute when it just doesn't. It's possible that's Barbie too, because Desplat is also doing that score.
So now it's time for everyone to hear, why don't you have Dune?
Dune is not getting nominated for score. I'm going to say that right now. I'm going to say it again. Dune is not getting nominated for score. It's not. Take it out of your goddamn predictions, and here's why. The Academy does not like doing the same thing multiple times in the score category unless you're John Williams. Black Panther. First movie won. Second one, no score nomination. Sorry, Ludwig. How to Train Your Dragon. First one nommed. No nominations for the follow-up. Avatar. First one nominated. Second one, no nominations. Lord of the Rings was nominated for and won 2 out of 3 of the awards. Second one, no nomination. No nomination for Howard Shore for The Two Towers. And it's because The Two Towers didn't have that much new from the first one, whereas the third one kind of reinvented everything and brought in an entirely different score. Every sequel that has been nominated in this category since 1986 has been John Williams. There has not been a single sequel nominated for Best Original Score since 1986 that has not been John Williams doing Harry Potter, Indiana Jones, or Star Wars.
Here's my question for you. If he does reinvent the wheel, it is completely new, like the third Lord of the Rings movie, does he win?
Yeah. Does he win? No. Does he get nominated? I'll consider it.
Cool.
But does he win? I really don't think so. Because there's no way, even if he does entirely different themes, there's still going to be that droning mix of ambient sound and throat singing and electric guitar that was so iconic to the first film. People are going to hear that, and no matter what it is that's different about it, they're going to go, this is just the first score again.
Yeah. Cool. So, you've hit some of the major contenders. Let's now get through the rest of your top 10 here for original score, because like we've mentioned, we haven't really heard much outside of a little trailer music for some of these.
Yeah, there's a few. I won't go too deep into any of them, but The Killer, Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross. Never doubt Reznor and Ross that are going to deliver good stuff, but also sometimes doubt them. For every Mank, Soul, and The Social Network, they have a Bones and All. They have a Waves. They have a Gone Girl. They don't always get nominated.
Yeah, I'm kind of sitting there with you. I feel pretty not good, but like I get your points with everything here. Like I think I have Indy 1, Killers 2. I think I have Oppenheimer 3, Past Lives 4, and then my number 5 is a mix of Dune or How Do You Live or something that we really don't even know at the moment, because there could be just a random score like the All Quiet one from last year that just kind of comes out from left field, or Everything Everywhere, which is a movie that we had saw, but
El
no
Conde.
one really took serious for score. It could be that.
It could be El Conde. Who knows? Bring back Johnny Greenwood. Please, Pablo Larraín. Get him back. Spencer's score. Okay, I know you don't like Spencer, Dylan, but do you like the score?
I do. I like Greenwood's score for Power of the Dog more, but I think the Spencer score is good. I like Johnny Greenwood a lot.
All right. Well, let's move on to this last category, Best Original Song, which is a shit show right now. We don't know anything about this. We don't know anything about this. This is a fucking hard category to do because we do not know what songs exist. The songs that get nominated probably don't even exist yet, because a song written for a movie is probably going to be the last thing that happens for most of these films. So in first place, I have Wish. This is Disney's new film. It's celebrating their 100th anniversary. Songs are written by Julia Michaels. Julia Michaels is a Grammy-nominated singer-songwriter, a pop icon in the making. She's written songs like Sorry by Justin Bieber, what a Canadian fucking song to have, Hands to Myself by Selena Gomez, Make Me Feel by Janelle Monáe, and of course, If the World Was Ending, which is, God, what a piece of fucking garbage song.
Yes.
I hate that song so much. Which I will say, I'm not a huge fan of her stuff. It's a lot of really forgettable pop songs. And maybe I should trust my gut here and say that Wish is not going to get her an Oscar win or nomination, because my gut is saying that her output for Wish is not going to be any better than her output for all of these pop icons and huge artists out there right now. But also, this is a Disney musical. It's the Disney musical of the year. This is the Frozen 2, the Encanto, the Moana of this year. Ariana DeBose is singing these songs. It's a Disney musical, and there's no doubt that there's going to be some anthem in the song, some ballad that kids can't stop singing, something that's going to be the new Let It Go.
One interesting thing I think that could happen coming from Wish is it's been quite a long time since we had a movie double nominated in this category, and I feel like Wish would probably be our best contender for that since La La Land.
Yeah, I could see that, but at the same time, I don't think Wish is getting nominated for animated feature. I think it's going to be a subpar Disney movie. I think it's going to be around the same league as Strange World. That said, it is a musical. But I'm getting Frozen 2 vibes on this. I'm not getting Encanto vibes. I'm getting Frozen 2. But in second place, I have Wonka. Songs are written by Neil Hannon. Hannon is probably best known, in the movie business at least, for writing So Long and Thanks for All the Fish from Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. He does a lot of British stuff. He does a lot of British TV. He has no Oscar nominations, but he writes fun, lovable show tunes for movies and TV shows. Wonka, we know, is going to be lovely. It is a musical, and no doubt one of his songs, which is going to be fun, clever, creative, and just very upbeat, it's going to come along for the ride. Something cute, clever, very British. I trust in Paul King. Now at number 3rd, this is the Diane Warren slot. This is currently occupied by Gonna Be You from 80 for Brady, but it could be replaced because of 2 reasons. The 2 reasons that this song could be replaced by another Diane Warren song. 1, this song is ass. 2, this song is shit.
That hasn't stopped them.
It hasn't, but if there's another Diane Warren song that's less ass and shit than this song, then that'll probably replace it. Because it's possible Diane Warren does something else this year that she campaigns more. Reasons for this song, though, not only is it Diane Warren, it has 4 iconic singers. Dolly Parton, Gloria Estefan, Belinda Carlisle, and Cyndi Lauper. And of course, Diane Warren writing it all. This depends if she has another song, but goddammit, we gotta investigate Diane Warren. Why is she in every year? Investigate Diane Warren.
I mean, even if she has another song, I think you just made the case for 80 for Brady, the 4 iconic singers. Even if Diane Warren has another one, you have like, I love this singer, or I love that singer. I love Tom Brady. Nominate this one.
After that, in 4th place, a track from Barbie. There are song and dance numbers in Barbie. They are apparently major moments of the film. They are some of the most Oscar cheer-worthy moments of the movie. They're going to make audiences laugh. They're going to be catchy, and they're probably going to be extremely memorable. Alexandre Desplat is doing the score. I'm not sure if he's doing the songs, But this gives me Everything is Awesome vibes from the Lego movie. And that's why I've got it in at number 4. I don't know what songs there's going to be. Maybe they're going to be existing songs, but we know that there are song and dance numbers. And if they're original, they could come along in this category. And in 5th place, a track from The Little Mermaid. We actually just got news of the 3 original songs that are being written for The Little Mermaid. Lin-Manuel Miranda and Alan Menken are writing the new songs. Alan Menken was one of the writers of the original. He did the music, while Howard Ashman, who is deceased, Howard Ashman wrote the lyrics of them. Alan Menken is coming back to do the music. Lin-Manuel Miranda is here to help with the music and do the lyrics. That is a killer combo. Here are the 3 songs and my ranking in order of likelihood of nomination. The first one is called Scuttlebutt. Scuttlebutt is being sung by Daveed Diggs and Aquafina. The reason I have this highest is that it is a Caribbean-inspired rap song. It feels like it's in Lin-Manuel Miranda's wheelhouse. Daveed Diggs plays Sebastian. He's going to be rapping, as is Aquafina. Aquafina plays Scuttle, a seagull who is also going to be rapping. It's going to have a Caribbean-inspired beat. This feels like the new Under the Sea. This feels like the song that's going to get radio play. Next song is For the First Time. May be disqualified because it is based on a theme from the original score of the animated movie. Alan Menken took a few sentences that were used in a certain moment and he built it into a song for this. Now this is being sung by Halle Bailey and it's all voiceover. And the least likely of the 3 songs to be nominated is Wild Uncharted Waters, which is sung by Prince Eric. This feels like Evermore from Beauty and the Beast. It doesn't feel like something that needs to get a nomination. It feels like we just added this song in.
Yeah, those are all good points. And as we've mentioned numerous times, this is a category it's almost impossible to predict because we don't know what songs are coming besides the musicals or the ones that are, like Barbie is going to have a song and dance numbers. So as mentioned before, let us know down below, what are your bold predictions so far out? Do you think there's Barbie songs? Do you think Barbie's sweeping? Matt, do you have any final bold predictions that you want to drop down here?
Ooh, final bold prediction. I want to see any of you putting Rina Sawayama's song from John Wick in your predictions. It's not happening. It's not happening.
No, it is not. Well,
how cool would that be, though?
Yes. Actually, no, I don't like that song. I like her, but I don't like that song. So, no.
I don't even know the song. So I didn't notice it.
Nominate the crab rapping. That's what I want.
It's Daveed Diggs. Daveed Diggs deserves the world. What a great performer. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for watching. Let us know what you think. And as always, my name is Matt.
My name is Dyl, and this is Fantasy Filmball.